Let's talk about housekeeping fields. Housekeeping fields allow you to keep track of what's happening to your records, such as when the record was created, when it was modified, who created it, and who modified it. You may not even display these fields on a layout for users to see, but they can help you track down problems. For instance, you might have somebody new to the company entering data in the records incorrectly, and by having these fields you can tell who's doing this incorrect data entry rather than trying to track them down. You can see that, hey, here's the last person who created or modified this record. So in order to create your housekeeping fields, which I do recommend that you put in every file and every table so you can track every single record that you ever create, in order to get back into Manage Database, you'll go up to the File menu and choose Manage and then choose Database. Now we're going to be going in and out of Manage Database quite a bit. It's one of the most important areas in FileMaker. It's where you create the structure of your whole database. So I highly recommend for Manage Database in any other area, for instance here's one, scripts, which we'll be covering a lot, I recommend you learn the keyboard command. Shift Command D or Shift Apple D on the Macintosh. On Windows it's Control Shift D. So again, memorize this. You'll be going in and out of a lot, and if you can make it any quicker than doing this, then that will save you time in the development process. A lot of time. You'll be going in. It's just helpful. Even if you're a mouse person and don't like the keyboard, a couple of keyboard commands can really help you out. So we'll go in there, choose it, and I'll be doing it through the menus because I want you to be able to see what's going on. So we're going to create our first housekeeping field. Date underscore create. Now I haven't named it creation date because I want any field that is a housekeeping field that has to do with dates to sort when I'm sorting my fields to have them in the same place. So you'll see the next field will be date mod. And make sure to change this. I can't warn you enough about accidentally making a field the wrong type. Then we'll create it. Go into options. And options, just we'll back up a second here. The highlighted field when you click options is the one that you go to options for. Each field has its own options. So make sure you look at which one's highlighted. So we'll go in here and there are 4 sections: auto enter, validation, storage, and furigana. We're going to go into each section in detail, but for right now we're going to stick with auto enter and just these 2 options up here. And we're going to choose creation date. When we do this, every time we create a record, it puts the date from the system software into that field. As soon as we create that record, if you had the field on the layout, you'd see it be the first thing to be in there before you even start typing. And it gets that from the system software, so if your system software date is wrong, well then the date on the records could be wrong also. And if we pop this menu up, you'll see there's other choices, but they're dimmed right now. That's because this is a date field, so you can't put time or timestamp into it, and you can't put text to it, which is the name and account name. So we're going to choose date, and we're also, before we get out of here, choose prohibit modification of value during data entry. This is very important to check because this prevents somebody from going into that field and typing into it. You don't ever want the creation date to change. You only want FileMaker to update it, and that's the only time it should happen is when you create a new record. So definitely check this, and FileMaker will be able to put that date in there when you create a record, but nobody else will be able to modify it. Just a safety mechanism. And then we'll come in here and we'll just modify the last name and put MOD for modification and hit create again. You'll see it's in there. And just to come back here, notice that the date create has a little synopsis of what's going on. It's got the creation date, it's got the can't modify, and the auto enter. So I always go back and look at my fields to make sure that when I created them that this is right. You just do a second glance and it can save you a ton of time later. So we'll go into options again and we'll choose modification date, and notice that the same options are there, but they're dimmed out as well because this is a date field. Now the modification date gets entered every time the record is modified. Any field can be modified, but it only enters it when you leave that record. If you're going through and typing in first name, last name, address, city, state, and zip, it's not going to update the date if it could, let's say it was a time modification, the time wouldn't keep changing that field. It only does it when you exit that record. And that could happen when you close a file or go to another record or exit all the fields. That will update this modification date. And again, we'll also prohibit modification here as well. Click OK, double check it, looks good. So here's the idea behind housekeeping fields. Fields that track things for you, that automatically you don't have to think about them, that information is just there. But we're actually going to click cancel here. The reason we're going to click cancel is because I want to show you how to use copy and paste. Now if you don't have FileMaker Advanced, don't worry about it. We'll show you everything about these fields so that you can type them in. So in other words, if you don't have FileMaker Advanced, you won't have a copy and paste button. But don't worry, we'll show everything about the fields and you can type them in yourself. Now I hit cancel down here and this dialog came up. If we hit cancel, we're canceling the cancel and we're staying just what we were. If you ever want to save something, you have to click the OK button. That's like a save button. But if we hit cancel and then hit discard, well then we're going to lose the date create and date mod and anything else we might have changed there. And I'm going to do that. Now you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I'm doing it for a reason, because in part 2 we're going to show you how to grab them from a template, copy and paste and import them. And we're actually going to use timestamps rather than dates. So even if you're typing these in the regular FileMaker Pro, you're going to want to retype them doing timestamps, because timestamps have date and time in them, and it'll reduce the number of fields we need.